So today we're going to be talking about painting our landscape material onto our landscape. We can use multiple different types of materials and blend them together. So we're going to get into that system setup. But first, if you didn't start your project with the starter content and you want to use some of the materials that Unreal has preloaded in, we can do that after the fact by just going over here to add and up to add feature or content pack. And over in the content tab, choosing starter content and click on add to project. All of those will appear inside of your content folder inside of the starter content. So we'll hit X on this now. So let's set up in our content folder another folder, and we'll call this one landscape. Double click that. And here I'm going to right click and add a new material. So right click material, and I'm going to name this one M underscore landscape. And then I'm going to double click on that to open up the material graph. So we need to get different materials to plug into these single channels. So I'm going to right click in the graph and type in landscape layer blend. And that's going to pop up this new node here. Over in the details panel, I'm going to click on the little plus sign, add element. And we can see when we do that, I do get a new channel in the node. So I'm going to click it again. I'm only going to create two different types of materials to blend just for the sake of time in this video, but you can essentially create as many different layers as you will have materials. So if I open up this little index tab, we can change the layer name. So maybe I'll call this one grass. And I'll open the second one and name this one, or just name it rock. I'm not really sure which one I'm going to bring in yet. So on my node, I can see that I have those two layers here. And for each channel that I'm going to output it to, I need a layer blend node. So I'm just going to duplicate this by clicking Control D on the keyboard, or you could right click on it and choose duplicate. So maybe I'll just add 3 channels for now. And we'll plug this one into normal and this one into base color. So now I can go into my content drawer and look for those materials inside of my starter content. So I can either open up this materials folder, or if I wanted to go more manually, I can open up the textures folder and find the texture maps that I want to bring in. We're essentially going to be bringing in the texture maps, so I will do it both ways. So let's bring in this. We'll have this be our rock. And I'm going to pull this here like that. I'm going to assume that this one is my roughness, so we'll just see how this goes. So let's plug these in. So RGB channel, and we're adding this to the rock layer, and those are plugged in. And then I can also open up the materials folder and I can double click on this material. And what I can do is copy this entire node system. So I can just click Control C and go back to my landscape, paste it, and move it. So if I switch back here, I can see this value is just plugged into roughness, and this is just a constant value. So it's like a grayscale channel. So 0 to 1, you can put any value in there and get a solid color essentially. So I'm going to plug this one into grass. This one went into the base color, and this one is my normal. I'll plug that in there. So that is an option for you, and you can get some more complicated materials brought into your landscaping. And let's hit apply and save. So you could also bring in your own materials from other websites, or maybe you made your own. If you made your own, maybe using Substance Designer or Substance Sampler, you can bring those in as well. You would just plug them in just as any other material, but through these layer blend nodes. So now we can start painting the landscape. I'm going to select my landscape. So I can select my landscape either here in the viewport or in the outliner. And I'm just going to open that up. And if we're selected, so I'm selected on my landscape too, we need to plug in our landscape material here. So I can click on this little drop down and search for my landscape material, or I can drag and drop it. Okay. So it's going to turn black and probably a little metallic-y, but we're going to fix that as soon as we start painting. So let's go back to our landscaping mode. So we're going to get out of selection mode and go back to landscape. And now we can go over to the paint tab. We can see here I have 2 layers created that I made in the material graph, and we need to apply these layers. So if I click on the little plus icon, I want to choose weight blended layer, and we're just going to click on save, and then we'll do the same thing for rock. Actually, I should save this inside of the landscape folder. So now we can start painting, and we can see that it auto applied the first one in my tab. But if I select rock and I click and start dragging, it starts painting that texture. We can see here I'm getting a lot of like tiling that is really obvious. This doesn't look good compared to like the grass, which again, we copied and pasted the grass material completely. So we might have to do a little bit more work on our rock one. So let's go back to our material. So M landscape, and I'm going to open this up and go over to my texture samples, and I'm going to right click out in space, and I'm going to search for landscape layer chord, and we're going to take this and plug it into our UV channel. And we can just plug the same one into all of them so that when we make changes on this one, it will update all of them and we don't have to create multiples of these. And all we want to do is change the mapping scale. I mean, you could change these other ones, but if we're specifically looking at the scale, the tiling of this, that's how we would do it. So I just typed in 1 and I hit apply just so we could see it updating. Let's type in 4 and hit apply. Right, so I need somewhere in between these. Maybe something like that. I want to look at how it's going to look when I'm, maybe at the ground level, or, where am I looking with the camera? But yeah, that's essentially how you paint your landscape. Again, you can change your brush type and the settings of it, the size, the fall off, and how strong it is. If you had a specific alpha, you could plug that in here. And then we can see over here, I have some stretching in my landscape. And we were able to see that before when we had like the square tile map on here. One of the ways I can try to fix that is by switching back to the sculpt tab and actually using the Retop, the Retopo icon here, and just clicking and dragging, and it does try to fix that topology here for me. Either using that method or smoothing it, but the smoothing it will manipulate your overall mesh a little bit more. But those are your best options. There are some videos out there that talk about fixing stretching textures that you are welcome to follow, but they are a little bit more advanced in the material graph. My recommendation is to use the Retop sculpt tab and or cover it with some plants, which is sort of just a way to cheat the system.